Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Leveled Up Tuts, and today we're going to be doing our fourth CSS3 tutorial, and it's going to be on box shadow. In the last lesson, we went over text shadow, which is similar to box shadow, except for it's for text. Box shadow is for any item, any block level item, so like a div or anything like that. I mean, you can put a box shadow on anything. So let's add some box shadows to all sorts of stuff and see what the results are. And before we get started, it is worth pointing out that box shadow is going to work on IE 9 and up, Firefox 4 and up, or it will work on older versions with the Moz vendor prefix. Chrome, it's going to work on versions 10 and up or 4 and up with the WebKit prefix. Safari, versions 3 and up with the WebKit prefix, or 5.1 and up without it. And then it's pretty much, if you use the WebKit prefixes, it's going to work on iOS and Android. So you don't have to worry too much about there. So let's actually get going and write some box shadow, and we're going to add it first on this white div, this main content that we have here, this main wrapper. So if we look at our CSS, let's check this out here. We're going to want to modify our main div, which, I should have named it something a little bit better. I think it's just wrapper. Here it is. Don't use this as a a way to have your CSS looking at an actual product or project. When I do an actual project, my CSS is all commented. It's a little bit more organized than this. It'd be nice maybe to clean this up just for these lessons, but let's make this a little bit bigger. So we have our wrapper here. It has a background of white. It's 80% width. We want to add a box shadow to this whole thing. So let's actually do that with one line of code. Nice and easy, box hyphen shadow. And then as well with text shadow, we had the distance, the x distance, and the y distance. So we're going to add 1 pixel for both of those. The third value is the border radius. So if this is set to 0, the shadow will be sharp. I actually have a really sharp shadow on my side. I can show you in a second. My blur radius is set to 0. The higher number, the more blurred it will be. So we'll put just 4 pixels now, so we have something, and the spread radius. So the spread radius will increase the size of the shadow overall. This property, as well as the blur radius, are optional. I'm going to go ahead and not use this for now, and next I'm going to put in the color. So it's just going to be black. Okay, so let's check out our page now. I'm going to give it a refresh. And you can see we have this box shadow on here. It might be hard to see in this because it's a little small. In fact, let's bump it up nice and huge so you can see it. I'm going to put 15 pixels box shadow. And now we have a nice heavy box shadow. In fact, I might not necessarily recommend using such a heavy shadow like this unless it fits the total feel of the site. But for this example, it looks pretty good. Another thing you can do with CSS3 is use RGBA values in here, and we'll go over that in another tutorial when we talk about RGBA, but you can make this a little bit transparent if you want, so that it's not so heavy. Or if you want to have the same effect without using RGBA, you would just have to find a color that's a little bit darker than this purple, and it's not going to look so heavy black. So let's actually bump up that size value that we did not put in the first time. Let's make this be 15 pixels and see exactly what this is. This is the border size, or the spread radius. So look at that. Now it's super heavy, but you get the picture. What it's doing is it's pushing it out 15 pixels, and then it's blurring the shadow. And if we come back here, let's take this down to 0. As well. We'll have this be 0. We'll have this be not there. So basically we have our blur radius is going to be 0. It's not going to be blurred at all. And we have our spread radius set to 0. So it's not going to be spread too far. It's just going to be offset by 10 pixels and 10 pixels. It's going to be a nice sharp shadow. So you can see what this does. It's this sort of look right here where we have this non-blurred shadow at all. So what else is really cool about box shadows that you can use an inner shadow? Sort of like if you were to do in Photoshop, you were doing an inset inner shadow. So the real way to do that is to just put the word inset in front of here. If we put this in here just like this, I'm actually going to adjust these values so they're not so sharp. And then I'm going to do, let's say 10 pixels, keep it black. This is going to put a shadow on the inside, and we'll see exactly how that works. So you can see it's coming in 5 top, 5 from the left, and an inset shadow right here. Let's say if we put these at 0 and 0, and left our 10 pixel value the same, it's going to be inset around the entire site right here. You could see it. It's coming in. It looks like this content is actually inset into the page itself. So using that for box shadow is really cool. It works really well. So another thing you can do is add it to just one side, right? Let's say we want to add just to the bottom. To do this, all you have to do is add a negative spread radius. So let's go to our code here. And we're going to have it be, let's do 20 pixels from the top. We're going to have our blur still be 10 pixels. And then our spread radius is going to be a negative, keep hitting the wrong button, a negative 10 pixels. We're going to keep it black. And I got to get rid of this inset here. Save this, check back to our page. And you can see we just have the shadow poking out of the bottom here. It's like nowhere else except for there. So this is box shadow. And I should mention that with box shadow, if you want it to be supporting the older Firefox, the older Safari, and Chrome browsers, you're going to be wanting to use the vendor prefixes. And those are just like we showed in the past tutorial, where you would have a box shadow and just like this, and then you would have hyphen WebKit hyphen, and save this. It's going to be, you're not going to notice on here because I'm actually using Chrome Canary, which is the latest. It's on like the latest version of Chrome, but you'll see it if you have an older version of Chrome, if you're running 9 and below, if you still are, if anybody is. But you'll also see it on Safari, older versions of Safari as well. And then to get Firefox, it's the same. You just add a MOZ. So hyphen MOZ hyphen box shadow, and then the rest of your stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this stuff because I mean, I approve of supporting older browsers, but you know, just for this example, I'm going to give this, let's say 2 pixels, and I'm going to keep this at maybe 5 pixels, and I'm going to take this from being black to make it a little bit gray and just 333. I'm going to refresh my page. We got a nice pretty subtle shadow going here. It looks pretty nice. Cool. So that's box shadow. You can start using it today and it's going to work all over the place. It's a heck of a ton better than using images to do the same thing. Okay, as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tuts. If you have any questions, leave a comment on the video. Hit me up on Twitter, Level Up Tuts, or at S. Tolinsky. Thanks for watching.